Alright guys, welcome to Slashdotdashdot. This past week saw the release of the war epic Dunkirk, directed by Christopher Nolan. And we went to see it, me and a couple of friends, the other day. And I have to say, it was an excellent film. I thought I would discuss some of my feelings about the film, some of my thoughts about it with you, and see if you guys agree, see what you guys think. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. Let me start off by saying it was great to see a British war film on the big screen. Over the years we've been used to seeing American soldiers, American troops in World War II, and the stories from the battles that the American troops took part in. It was done in a very sort of interesting way, to be honest. The narrative of the film was sort of set across three different stories. You had people in the mole on the beach waiting to be evacuated. So that was the main premise of the film, was obviously the Dunkirk evacuation, whereby the Nazi soldiers had surrounded the British soldiers and the French soldiers and the Belgian soldiers, and they basically gave surrender terms to Winston Churchill, but he declined those. So on the beach at Dunkirk, we see a huge line of soldiers waiting to get home, and the boats were coming across, but unfortunately they were coming across pretty slowly. The conservative estimate was to get 30,000 soldiers back home. So on the beach we see two young soldiers. They bury another soldier, and then they start to queue up to wait to get evacuated. While they're queuing, the Luftwaffe planes come over the beach and they drop some bombs down onto the waiting soldiers. Now, in the midst of all this, these young soldiers find a wounded soldier on the beach, and they sort of try to con their way onto a boat. They try to skip ahead the line. Of course, many people were that desperate to get home that they would do things like this. But unfortunately, that doesn't quite work out for them, and pretty much the main part of the film is with these young soldiers, because the story on the beach is told over the course of a week. So the story in the boat is told over a day, and that is one of the civilians that is having his boat taken off him by the Navy so that they can come across to assist. He decides against that and goes across of his own free will, pretty much. And he takes his son and one of their friends with them. And that's kind of a key theme to the film, is these sort of small acts of heroism. So we follow their story across the English Channel as they head towards Dunkirk. The final part of the story is told from the sky, and that is Tom Hardy's character, who is a pilot of a Spitfire, and he has to assist in protecting the boats that are coming back to the English Isles. All three stories merge at one point or another, and I thought it was a really, really interesting way of portraying this sort of film, because obviously war was fought on many fronts, and this is a really good way of connecting a story and showing the many different aspects to war. A lot of the film had very, very little dialogue, and at first it was kind of strange to see that, but I actually thought it was a very, very good choice, because it didn't need overly explaining. The characters didn't need to discuss things that were happening. It was just plain to see, and the way that it was shot by Christopher Nolan really helped this as well. Some of the cinematography was unbelievable, especially when the Luftwaffe planes were coming overhead across Dunkirk beach. Some of the shots that they managed to get for those parts were truly magnificent. I can imagine that this film would look unreal in the IMAX theatres. So I don't want to spoil too much, but obviously most of this is readily available, as it is an actual event that happened. So I don't feel too bad about talking about certain things in the film. A little moment that sort of got me choked up was when the civilian boats eventually reach Dunkirk, and the troops on the beach, who've been waiting for nearly a week to get off of there, they see them coming over the horizon and they all start cheering. It really, really choked me up. It made me feel very proud of these guys that fought for our freedom back in the day, and they fought to stop the Nazi threat. There's also a similar moment with Tom Hardy's character later on in the film, but I don't want to say too much about that. But again, that was another prideful moment, and it really did choke me up. As I was watching the film, I noticed one of the younger soldiers, I think he was called Alex. I kept thinking, I'm sure that's one of One Direction. I didn't know that Harry Styles was in the film. When I left the theatre, my friends said, oh yeah, it was Harry Styles. I had no idea. Like I say, I figured it was one of the guys. But I tell you what, I was really surprised. It was a great debut from him in his acting career, and I think he's probably going to find some more work in the film industry. He kind of plays a little bit of an arsehole in the film, and he does it pretty well actually. He sort of, him and the other young soldiers clash at certain points, but it leads to a nice sort of final conclusion at the end of the film. I have to be honest and say that this film really does feel like a modern classic. Christopher Nolan has done such a superb job with this film. I've seen a few sort of war films, you know, over the years. Saving Private Ryan's a good one. It's one that I always really like, but this is certainly up there. I want to see it again already. It's just such a good film. I can't recommend it highly enough. You should go out and watch it if you get the chance. I don't think you're going to regret it if you do go and see it. So if you have seen the film, I'd like to know what you thought. Do you think it's as good as what I'm making out? What do you think of the sort of cinematography, the choice of having like Harry Styles in there? Some of the bigger named actors actually, you know, they didn't have a whole lot of screen time. There's also Cillian Murphy in there, as well as, like I said, Tom Hardy. They had scenes and everything, but it's quite shared out between all of the cast. So my final rating for this film, Dunkirk, is a 9 out of 10. Go and see it if you get a chance. You won't regret it, and I really, really hope to see Christopher Nolan do another film very soon in the near future. I love a lot of his work, so I'm glad to see that this film matched up to some of his other ones, and possibly even probably his best film, to be fair. Alright, that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, because I want to do some more movie reviews as we go along. It'd be great to have some of you stick around. Check out some of our gaming videos, some of our music videos, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.